Thank you, Joan, for meeting me today. You consented to talking to me about being a counselor.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome.
You've been doing this for many years, so you're very experienced.
8 years now, yes.
8 years.
Yeah.
And so I'd just like to get your insight and perspective on what you bring to the field.
Yeah,
being a
sure.
counselor.
My experience, it's definitely been a journey.
Yes.
I've definitely changed since day one to where I am today.
Okay.
Definitely with the different populations that I've worked with. Each one's required a different hat.
Yes.
That we call a different hat. And I've learned a lot of humility, humbling, the whole bit.
Yes, good. So you said how long? You said 8 years you've been a counselor?
Yeah, but yeah, 8 years,
It's a long time.
just a little over 8. Yeah.
Yeah. So have you worked in shelters, different programs?
Yeah, I've worked at a halfway house. I worked there for 2 years. I was a temp, a relief worker,
Yes.
which I took on more responsibilities as a relief. I worked at a 3/4 house, and I also worked at the shelter in Greenfield.
Oh, you said 3/4 house.
3/4 house was a step up from the shelter
Oh.
over on Silver Street.
Okay.
So at the time, it was called the Silver Street Inn, and then we moved over to Sanderson Street across from the hospital.
What was the dynamics there? Was it like a house?
It was a
type of-
community environment.
Okay.
Which in the beginning, it was all directly from the shelter.
Right.
If they felt as though you were a good fit for that community that's there at the moment, then you would be interviewed, and the director would see if you were a fit for the place.
Yeah. So it was like a day program, community, people going out into the community,
No, it was, they lived there, they had
a
chores.
home-based.
Oh, absolutely, cooking. Everything transitions into something new.
Yes.
In the beginning, it was, everyone had to cook once a week, but everything evolved, just like how we look at substance abuse today. That's evolved also.
Yep, I'm going to get to that. Yes. So what made you decide to go into this field, John?
Well, I wanted to give back. I had my own challenges, midlife.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it a midlife crisis, but it was a crisis.
Sure.
So when I got myself back together again, I decided to start where I wanted to give back most. And at the beginning, it was at the halfway house for substance abuse. And so I did. I worked from there, and then I met the director over at the Well Street Shelter, and he said, "How would you like to come over and give us a hand?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I don't have that much experience with this population." He said, "Well, give it a try, see if you like it."
Nice.
And that's where I found my home. That's where I felt.
That was the beginning of
that. Yes, it was. I felt where I could relate better to that population, and plus it was a lot more challenging because you get a mixed bag of all different types of situations.
Oh, absolutely.
And people.
Yes, I mean, I know when, you and I were together, when
Yep.
I came in to Wall Street Shelter, you were there, you trained me. I
Yep.
mean, I came in there, I just saw that this guy is really, he knows what he's doing, and you can tell that he's a humble soul and just the right person for, this position.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I can see that.
Always, there's always more to learn.
Yes.
And that's the
yes.
thing. It's we learn from each other.
Absolutely.
I look at you as a colleague, and I need your help, and I hope at times you need my help.
Absolutely.
We work together,
Yes.
as a team.
Everything comes together better when
abs-
you're working as a team.
Absolutely.
Everything's on the same
If
page.
if you're not on the same page, then there's chaos.
It really, absolutely.
If I'm coming in and say one person isn't making sure the rules are followed,
Right.
and
Those
say
are
I
loud.
come in and then we all need to help out here, then there's a problem.
Gosh, it just sets you back, and then your shift becomes harder to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the
The
whole
books,
place.
the notes, everything.
Yeah, yeah. And notes are a huge thing.
It is.
Um,
It is. if they don't do the notes from the shift before you, you
Right,
don't even know what's going
right.
on.
And facts only, not, no opinions, just
No, that's-
report what
yeah.
happened and
The
not,
facts,
yeah.
objectively, just,
Yeah, if you want my opinion, come see me and we'll talk, and I'll give you my opinion, but I will tell you what happened, and unbiased, information, for sure.
right. So how was your working style? I mean, I know you have, everyone has a different working style. I know you had yours, and,
Well, that also evolved, in the beginning, I was in the construction field, as an electrician, and, for many, many years, and we were, tough,
Yes, I'm sure.
No bull, no.
yeah,
So when I started working there, it was, do this, do this, do
Right.
this, and I had no clue in the beginning. It was definitely baptism by fire, I call it.
sure,
And
sure.
boy,
a little tough one. Some people just,
yeah, and guess what? I learned the hard way sometimes. It's about compassion first.
Sure.
And knowing
Sure.
the group that you're working with.
sometimes it doesn't work to come in as, so, kind of like putting it ready, giving everyone like a chore, and you have to do this and do that.
Oh, right, yeah, it's how you approach people.
It's how you approach people. The
Absolutely,
approach is
'cause
important.
everybody's coming
Yes.
from a different place.
Yes, absolutely.
It's and it's being honest and
Yeah.
truthful. If you're
Put yourself in their situation, like, yeah.
absolutely, and listen. That's the biggest thing I did was I listened.
Yeah.
And I hope to continue to do that, to do my job. If I don't, then I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. So, what advice would you give to someone in a situation like a crisis? I mean, I'm sure you've been in crisis
Oh.
situations where, for instance, you can give, an example of a crisis, like somebody who is going into this field will come into, I mean, I work in the field, I've been around the crisis situations, so
Well, know your resources.
know your
Not-
resources.
Number
What
one,
advice?
know your resources.
Okay.
Read your notes.
Okay.
The notes will give you maybe a flag note
Mm-hmm.
of maybe somebody who's been struggling.
Sure.
And a lot of times it's not written that way, but they're struggling, but they may
Right.
call it some not so nice things.
Sure.
And
The notes
but
help to guide you to tell you what's
they'll give you a heads up on what could be happening at
Sure.
the location.
Yeah.
And
Good.
And again, you need to be able to have your resources ready, available, so you don't want to be looking through pages
No.
when you need to act, whether it's calling the police or an ambulance, or even calling crisis on the phone and getting guidance from them.
That's true.
I've worked with crisis, and they've taught me so much just
Oh,
by talking to
absolutely.
them on the phone.
They are helpful. Yes, I use them as a resource, definitely. They guide you through. If you have any, they have other resources they can recommend.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. That's good advice.
So, yeah.
Reach
and-
out.
Yeah, and, and a lot of times, unfortunately, what happens is when, say, one client, guest, or participant is in a crisis or having an issue at the moment, sometimes it triggers other people.
Right, that's so true. Tom.
So,
Yes.
okay, so what am I doing? Well, I need to, number one, try to
De-escalate.
de-escalate, absolutely. It's all
Right.
about de-escalation.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is get to know the people that you're working with,
Working with, that's true. Absolutely. Get to know them and
Yeah, and be real,
Yeah.
and because,
humans.
yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, it's, and it's, very challenging when what you're doing isn't working,
yes,
so then you really need to act and get the situation under control,
absolutely. Thank you. That's. How about burnout? Have you experienced any burnout at all? I
yeah,
mean,
there's different levels of burnout,
How do you handle it? I mean,
Well,
it's-
in our field, we talk about self-care.
Yes,
Okay, it's very
Big one.
important, because if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't take care of anybody. I
Exactly.
can't be of service.
No.
If I'm having my own issues.
right. I think a lot of us just keep going, and we start, it triggers off on the next staff or even the people you're serving.
Oh, absolutely,
Right?
yeah.
Burnout experience.
Absolutely,
You have
it's
to do
stress.
self-care.
It's stress, and stress, is self-induced.
Yeah.
So that's why self-care is very important. And, we get a lot of time off. We get a lot of, in this field, we get plenty of personal time, vacation time.
Yes, we do.
All that stuff, so use it wisely.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
and in the beginning, for anything, as a counselor. You're not, it's a journey of learning how to take care of yourself and the people around you, so.
Absolutely. Thank you, that's so important. So, let's see, what important aspects of being a counselor, when there are staff shortages, like, would you say?
Well, that happens frequently
It
in
does
our line of
happen.
work. It does. I know, and I mean, the honest truth, I tell people the way it is, and I talk about things that a lot of people don't like to talk about in our situation, but for an example, I came in on a Friday night for a 4 o'clock shift. I didn't get home till Monday morning.
I've been there.
Yeah, and there's, nobody's coming in.
I know,
You know,
that's
and,
right.
and you just can't leave, so what you do is you put the fires out that happen, make sure people are safe, and what we're supposed to do normally on a shift, you sort of keep it going, you know, and just back off yourself and say,
Sure.
look, I can only handle what I can handle.
Exactly, you're doing a double shift and overnight as
yeah,
well, perhaps.
absolutely.
Do the best you can, but just don't stress out too much about it, because, I mean, it is what it is, it happens.
Oh,
It's,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely, absolutely. And hopefully you have a good supervisor that might come in to help you.
Absolutely.
You know, as you know, we both worked at the same location. There was 30-plus people, and we were
That's
there by
right.
ourselves.
Yeah, we were.
You know, 2 floors.
Two floors, yes.
And being there over, you know, more than 8 hours or 16 hours sometimes.
Yes, indeed.
You have to, you know, keep your eyes open and ears. Ears
Absolutely.
as a counselor
You
are
do
very
checks.
important.
It is very important.
I
You know,
listen and I hear people, and I can get a good indication of what the atmosphere is of that location. You know, I think that goes for all the other locations also. You know, there's always little bickering going on between people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and I'm not gonna be perfect
No.
in my decisions, but over in time with experience, they start to repeat themselves.
Yes, they do.
So it's like, oh, okay, I remember this situation happening again with a different client.
Oh, sure.
Or guest or participant, and so you do I would do a better job, but I'm never gonna be perfect.
No.
You know, I asked myself in the end, did anybody get hurt?
Right,
by,
that's
by
true.
my decision?
Yes.
If nobody got hurt by my decision,
Yeah.
and I want to go home and think about what that was, I rely on that I will learn from that no
That's
matter
right.
what.
I mean, there's been situations where clients, they don't like each other, we know that. I mean,
Yeah,
30
absolutely.
people in the same program, they're not everybody's gonna like each other.
Right.
Everyone's not a friend to each other.
Right.
And then they'll come to the counselor expecting us to solve the problem. but-
Or play one against the
That's
other.
right.
There's a
So
lot of
you
things
have
that are happening,
Yeah.
you know, in that environment.
Okay.
And that's where it comes to intakes.
Yes.
You know, when I believe and I see this as
Yeah.
ongoing situation. I'm very chronic about how I go about my intake, because
Yes.
when you do an intake, usually it's
Oh, yeah.
they just came in, and this is where you can really get honesty out of
The intake process.
Yes, absolutely, because once they go back out into the population, you know, they go into protective mode a lot of times, you know. So this is where you can really make contact and build a relationship.
During the
'Cause yes, absolutely, you know.
And
And
that's a really critical time when they come in, and sometimes they don't want to give you a lot of information, you know, they still kind of, it's too personal
Absolutely.
for them. And
oh, absolutely.
meet them where they are
Right.
at that point, just, you know,
Because they
don't try
don't-
to get stuff from them where they, you know, it's trauma. You don't know what's going on.
Right.
You know, so just.
What's trust? You have to
Yeah,
build
absolutely.
trust,
Thank you.
okay?
Trust, yes.
If I don't have trust in
Right, they
either a
have to
male
feel
or a
trust.
female, then I am nowhere they won't trust me. And then when I come on the floor for my shift, then they'll be scared. You know, everything's heightened,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's very important to be sincere, because they can see
They
right
can,
through you.
they can see right through you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean,
The fakeness.
Yeah, I mean, this is wherever that you end up,
Yeah.
you know, they've been through a lot,
Right,
so they
yeah.
can see.
And it doesn't help you don't want to stigmatize them and, you know, cause any other, like judgments on them.
Oh, God, no.
Because, we know there's substance abuse, we know
Yeah.
there's substance use going on, we know this, but
Yeah.
that's not up to us to judge anyone.
No,
right?
no, and a lot
We're
of
to-
mental health issues.
Exactly.
Challenges. So it's just understanding and you hope that whenever you sit down and have a conversation, that they leave a little more at peace with themselves.
Absolutely.
Or feeling better. Maybe you didn't fix it,
Yeah.
but they
Right.
feel better by, sometimes it's just letting it out.
I
They
know,
feel
it's
better.
just talking to some,
Yeah.
and that they have your attention, you listen to their concerns,
Right.
and they have you there with them, you're genuinely there with them, they can tell.
Oh,
You're
absolutely.
not, like, you're just like,
Yeah,
okay,
falling
another,
asleep
right.
or looking
This
off into
person is
something
not,
else.
doesn't care about me.
Right, right. And they'll sniff that out right
And
away.
it's so easy for counselors to, judge people all this, like, how come you haven't started drinking yet? Like, they don't need that.
No,
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 no.
no. So it's just remembering to be compassion and,
Right, and there's a lot of rewards,
Absolutely.
People coming back and telling you
oh,
what.
yes,
Oh, look,
feedback.
oh,
is important.
thank you so much. You wouldn't believe what I'm doing, and I listened to what you said.
That's right.
What you suggested, because all I offer is suggestions. And I let that known right away, that I'm not telling
Now,
you what
suggestions
to
are
do.
different than advice. That's a good point, right?
Yes.
Because we don't really want to, advice is like we're telling them, like, you should do this, you should do
Right.
that. But suggestions are,
All I offer is suggestions.
That's
I'm not
great.
walking in your shoes.
right,
I'm here
That's a
to,
good point.
I'm here to hopefully make you
Guide
think
you.
about something that
Right.
that might help you, help that
Right.
person.
yeah. Like if you listen to change talk, that's good. But that's, they're talking to you about change.
Right.
We're not trying to change them.
No, not at all.
Were you there during the COVID
I was.
situation?
Yes.
We worked, I was working.
Yeah.
And that was kind of scary. That was, did you notice like an uptick on substance use or, was
Well,
caseworkers work? No.
right around that time is when we started looking at substance abuse or substance use
Yeah.
a lot differently.
Yes.
And that's when harm reduction was making its way into thinking and our thinking. And so no, not really, but it was tolerated a lot more. In the old days, say like if you're working in a shelter, you couldn't use. But nowadays, we try to do more help than kick you out. We give, but if it gets to a point where that you're doing harm, or then you have to leave. But so during the COVID, the population I was working with, they were pretty much in a bubble.
Yes.
So a lot of it was I was trying to educate of what was really happening,
Yeah.
what I was seeing on the news,
Right.
and trying to decipher myself what
Sure.
was true and not true.
Oh, I know. There's so much information, misinformation out there that.
So we kept that particular population. They were pretty much in a bubble. So if they weren't really going anywhere, then why do we have to wear a mask? It was the hardest thing was, hey, please go back and put a mask on.
Sure.
That
Oh,
was,
I know it. That
it
was challenging for
oh,
us
it was
counselors to.
nonstop.
I know it.
But you had some that would be really fearful. So
Sure.
you had to be patient with those that are really, because that was a trigger for a lot trigger
Oh,
too.
it was. Absolutely.
Even today you see people driving around with a mask on every now and then.
Yeah.
But
Still there.
yeah, because it was tolerated more substance abuse. People didn't hide it like they did. So I don't think there was really an uptick in it. We may have been in a cycle. See, every residential program, shelter, everything cycles. The groups change. And so you may have a group that's high substance use, and then you'll have a really good house, quote unquote,
Right.
that doesn't give you a lot of challenges like the ones that were there before. Yeah, it was more education during the COVID.
It was.
And
It was.
we had a lot more responsibilities
We
also.
did, because, we were going to be caseworkers.
Right.
The supervisors were pretty much going to ask us to
Yeah.
start taking caseloads on, because,
And what was hard was that there was no movement,
Right.
especially at the shelter. So they pretty much, there was no work, so they were cooped up. The guests were cooped up, and so trying to manage that, you know, it was difficult.
It was difficult.
I mean, but again, they were, that population, the homeless population, was in more of a bubble more than anybody
I
else.
understand still there. Did you, so that brings me to ask you about telehealth. Now, were you in favor of that, the telehealth? I mean, I think some of our clients were using it.
Yes,
Telehealth?
yeah, absolutely. You know, yeah, it was a resource. You know,
was.
I like the one-on-one contact personally.
Yes, a lot of them did, and, you know, a lot of people still favor it, and some favor telehealth. I mean, the counselors is just optional.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, just like people are working from home still.
Sure, yeah,
You know,
remote, yeah.
you know, COVID changed our
I know.
environment.
Yeah,
you
it
know.
sure did.
So, yeah, I mean, if that's for you, then that's fine. I mean, some people, you have no choice
Right,
to use it, transportation-wise, so it does open doors.
it does.
You know, for people that struggle with transportation.
Sure. I mean, you have that benefit of talking to your psychiatrist without leaving your house.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, if you feel comfortable.
If you feel
comfortable. I guess.
absolutely finding a good one that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I spoke with my doctor a couple times, and it was definitely different. You know, I had to get used to it, but
Yeah.
I still got the same care.
Telehealth?
Yeah,
Oh.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, like you said, you worked with a lot of different populations. Like anyone going into this field, would you suggest for them to do it, like far as biases? Like there's different cultures, different values. You can't go in this field saying, well, you're biased against a male, female, or white, black, because people are going to be different
Oh,
in this
absolutely.
population.
And
Yeah.
you have to find a population that works best for you, where you can be the best version of yourself.
Okay.
I recently, and I think you know this too, that I worked at a residential program with significant mental health
Sure,
challenges,
yeah.
and
I remember.
you know that it really wasn't for me. You know, there were too many barriers and obstacles that I had to go around to
Wasn't a good fit.
serve. No, it wasn't a good fit. No, I mean for long term.
Sure.
You know, but I learned a lot.
Yes. Well, that's
You
good.
know, but it was definitely a challenge. I mean, you know, working in this field, there's not a lot of money sometimes. So,
Absolutely. That's true.
so that sort of interferes with some of the things that I came across. But you have to find your own place. You know,
That's
just
true.
because, you know, one population, oh my God, there's no way. A lot of people can't work with the homeless.
That's right.
You know, it's just like I can't.
No,
I'm
they
out.
can't. No,
Yeah.
this is not a good fit for me. You're absolutely
But
right.
maybe you're best
Maybe
with direct
residential
care. Some
program
people
is-
like direct care.
They do, yeah. That's
know,
absolutely true.
You know,
There's a lot of different areas.
yeah, the seniors, the
Absolutely.
population.
Yes. Which is what I think I'm going to concentrate on is in the senior, as far as counseling. It's a medical, you know.
That's interesting.
I think I'm going to
You know, so
concentrate on that.
you know that particular group is, oh boy, I have a lot of compassion for that group
Yes, I
because
do
there are a
too.
lot of them are alone.
I'm right, and
You
that's
know.
another reason why I chose. I'm thinking really strongly about.
Yeah, you know, it's
Area.
horrible being alone, and when
It
you're
is.
when you're getting to that time when you'll be transitioning.
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
so yeah, you have to find your own place.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think. So thank you. Do you have anything else to add? We have about 5 minutes, John. Do you want to add to our discussion about working as a counselor? I mean, you've given us such a great insight.
Well,
Anyone's
I'm
going
sure I
to
was
the
all
field.
over the place a
No,
little
that's
bit.
good. No, I mean,
But I think it's just be humble. I try to continue to be humble. I try to remember what I was like when I first started.
sure. I think we all have a story that, you know, some of us share it and some of us don't, but I
Right.
mean, I have a story too, and it just makes me humble too,
Oh,
to
yeah.
have served, and it's not for money, because like you just said, it's
No,
not, you don't
no,
get really
no.
paid a lot.
And what makes it worth it for me is when you're successful with a client, you know, or a guest or participant.
Sure,
Um,
sure,
and they come back and they tell you how good they're
Yes.
doing, and they
Yes.
thank you, and it's just like,
yes.
oh man, I mean, that just gives me more. You have to recharging my batteries. you
Absolutely.
know?
And another thing too is, that's good, that's a good point, but sometimes you don't get that, but it's okay.
Yes, it is.
Because not every day is going to be, oh, you did a great job, Elaine, and, we can't wait to see you tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's like,
no,
you might
that-
go home,
no,
like,
no.
do
It's
I
like,
want to go back there?
Didn't you know? Didn't you know what I did? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
and no, you know, and that. Sorry, that doesn't get it.
No,
but
it
the thing
doesn't.
is that you
Don't
know.
go in for it for gratification for
No,
yourself, because
no.
that's not, it's not gonna be a good fit for you.
You'll get it when you need it.
Exactly, yeah, you'll
you
know, yeah,
You'll know, and
absolutely.
it's you know, it's a field that makes me a better person. It really, I believe so. Anyhow, I've learned so much about myself, and and I'll continue to do it as long as I can.
Yes,
You know, and when I need to take a break, then I take a break.
that's good.
You know, that field is, people are always needed.
Absolutely.
You know.
I mean, the agency that we work with, they have people that, like your wife has been working in, she's been doing it for a long time,
She
peer
sure has.
specialist.
Peer specialist, yeah.
And she
Yeah.
loves what she's doing, because she wouldn't be doing it this long.
Oh, yeah, I mean, people rely on you. You know, when you come
Absolutely.
in on a shift, they're so
Yes.
happy to see you.
I know,
The
it's-
ones you make contact with, and typically, I've learned that when the intake that you do, that particular individual looks at you a little bit different than some of the other counselors there.
That's so young.
If you really make that connection
Sure.
with that person, they are more apt to come to you than anybody else.
That's
you
so
know?
true.
And
Thank
it's I'm happy I found it.
Yes,
Who would know?
me too.
A thick-headed Irishman, electrician.
Yes, you're doing this in this field.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
true.
And
So you
I'm so
see yourself
grateful.
still in this field, or?
Oh, absolutely.
down the road?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
We're glad to
and-
have you here.
yeah.
You're an asset to this field, really are.
Well,
I hope
thank
you stay
you.
with it, John. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And, thank you, John. I appreciate you
Well,
coming
thank you
today
for asking me.
to
Yeah,
talk to
yeah,
me, and
yeah.
everyone else appreciates your insight, and we thank you, John.